Well, it was a warm winter afternoon at Moonstone Creation in Calgary, Alberta, on the lands of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Tsuut'ina Nation, Yithka Nakota First Nation, and more recently the Otam-Pimwisawak Métis. And amongst the company of millions of beads and Indigenous art, the Ancestral Science Podcast was excited to speak with Kim Brothers, Cree from Northern Alberta, about revitalizing the lost arts of quill work, tufting, and fish scale art, the sacred ratio of brain to hide within tanning, birch bark biting, art with tails, bones, and scales, the OG beads, the difference between appreciation and appropriation, and the story of the spirit bead. And don't worry, no moccasins were harmed in the making of this episode, but washing machines and moccasins probably isn't the best combination. Just gonna say that now. So with that, grab your embroidery or beading project, maybe a snack, and an open heart to learn from artist and educator, Kim Brothers.
Yeah. Okay, welcome to Ancestral Science Podcast. As protocols first, I'd like to offer you tobacco for your time and your wisdom here today.
Yep. And on behalf of Creator, I accept this.
Okay. So for everyone as well, for protocols, we always make sure that the knowledge that is shared here today, it's not mine, it's not the podcast, it is connected to the knowledge keepers that is teaching it, anyone that they learned it from, as well as the land that we're on. So with that, I just want to open it up for you to introduce yourself in your own way.
Yeah, so my name's Kim Brothers. I am Cree from Northern Alberta. Calgary's been home for over 20 years now, and I've been doing this for 15 years. 15 years.
Wow. And where are we now?
Where are we now? We are at Moonstone Creation.
We're at Moonstone Creation.
Yeah, just down in Inglewood.
And what do you get to do here?
So here in Moonstone, we get to keep lots of the dying arts alive. We offer classes on everything as well to help with that. So there's beading, moccasin making, porcupine quill work, tufting, fish scale art, dream catchers, talking sticks, medicine wheel teaching, and earrings.
It's like, what don't you do?
What don't I do? Paint.
I
can't paint.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first question I always ask everyone, what is science to you?
Science is, you don't really think about it until you are doing something, like with the hides and things like that. You know, the things that go into the hide, the brains, it's just the perfect amount per animal. So just that alone is very cool. The way the fish scales are, the way the beads sit, like it's all, the science is all there, but you don't notice it. And then when you do, it's like, oh, cool.
Right? It's not like you're doing equations in the classroom.
Yeah, it's fun science.
Right, it's fun science. It's the real science.
Yeah.
So how did you get into this and what do you do? So you make all of these and you teach a lot of classes, right?
Yes. So I actually didn't get to grow up doing this. I moved away from all the relatives up north that did do it. It wasn't until my Auntie Von Jobin, who opened up Moonstone Creation 15 years ago, who got me into it. And then from there, I started with beading, started with tufting, fish scale, just grew from there. I'm still learning though.
So you started right at the beginning when it opened?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Since the start.
Since the start. Amazing. So as you said, there's a ton of math and science within all of this because this is the OG math and science.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of counting, lots of everything, tinkering and playing and experimenting and just going for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, especially for, you know, a lot of people don't connect with math and science in school because it's not something that is connected to them. They don't see themselves in the subject, especially like you said, it's like the math and science is in what you're doing. You don't really know you're doing it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of the times the same kind of math and science that you're doing in school, just without, you know, it's the practical stuff. It's not actually like doing the equations, which is just a different language that had to be slotted in, right?
Exactly.
Cool.
Yep.
So what, do you want to show us some cool stuff?
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to make is the moccasins with the smoked tan hide. So that's the hide that has the brains of the animal, and we smoke it, and that's what gives it its color and leaves behind that awesome smell that everyone loves. It's great to bead with. The needle goes through it nice and easy. It is hard to get and really expensive, but worth it if you can. It's probably the one of the main reasons why Moonstone is able to keep doing what we're doing is because we have access to these hides. A lot of people don't know how to do it, let alone where to get it. Lots of people are used to the commercial hide. That stuff is easy to get anywhere and everywhere, and it's really cheap, but it's not the greatest to bead on. So we actually do the beadwork separate and then glue and stitch it on after, whereas this is beaded right onto it. Well, like with this one, we use moose, so it's the thickest hide of all the animals, so it lasts a lifetime if you take care of it, so no walking on cement. They breathe, so they're warm in the winter, cool in the summer. You don't need to line it like the other ones are because of the moose hide that we use. They do, when you buy moccasins and you try them on, you want them to fit really snug like a sock. So they do kind of stretch out a little bit as well. So you have to be a little bit more picky about the sizing.
Yes. Can you talk more about the brains?
Yeah, so the all hide originally is white, pure white. And then we use the brains of the animal, we rub it back into the hide, and we believe that's like putting the spirit of the animal back into the hide. So, but that's also what gives it its softness and why the needle is able to go through it nice and easy. And because it's like putting the spirit of the animal back into the hide, we keep every little piece of scrap, even little fuzzies we keep, and we put back out onto the land with the tobacco.
Very cool. So, and you were saying that there's that, it's the moose. You take the like all of the brain,
yeah,
and you know you're using that. It's like the perfect ratio, right?
Yeah. There's nothing left over, and it's just enough for that animal's hide. Yeah. Some people are trying to use like fabric softener and stuff now, just because they're a little iffy about the brains, or it gets damaged or lost or something. You feel a difference. There is a big difference. So this is the way to go.
Don't use fabric softener.
Yeah.
Use the real
Yeah,
brains.
don't try and cheat and use anything else. You stick with the brains, because whatever is in the brain works its magic onto the hide and just makes it how it is.
The perfect natural chemical reaction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was saying, like, this is elastic geometry too, that 2D to 3D, you're working with this, and it's 3D animal, 2D, and then when it's a hide, and then 3D again.
Yeah. Yep. There we go.
That was fun. I just did that.
Yeah. And then, so that's the leather. And then after that, there's all the beading techniques that we kind of keep going to with the classes. Lots of times when we have the beading classes, I show everyone the different techniques, and then we vote the majority rules on what we learned for the day. Lots of times it is this kind of technique. This is a 2-needle or applique technique. That's the one that you see everywhere. Pins, jackets, moccasins, everything.
The 2-needle.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
what other styles are there?
Well, the easiest one to start off with is this guy. This is peyote beading. So it's 1 bead at a time. So it does take forever, but it's easiest. You're not going through the hides or anything like that. So it's not fighting you at all. This one is called flat peyote or brick stitch. I don't know this one enough to teach it, because I know how to do it, but not as well as other people can. There's just a lot going on, because you kind of have to start in the middle and then work your way out.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's lots of threads and stuff on the go. And
it's like Indian coding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that is the looming. So that's the lanyards, barrettes, keychains, all of that. This one's easy to do as well, but it eats up a lot of supplies. A lot of thread is being used. A lot of beads are being used. And you do have to be careful with the finishing. Otherwise, it comes undone. And then you have all your threads loose, all your beads come off. So you gotta be really picky about how you finish that one.
I guess that would be a lot of thread.
And then the least well-known one is this one here. This is lazy stitch. So these beads aren't stitched down like these ones are. They're loose. So what you do is you just kind of catch a little bit of the leather and move on. And there's like 8 to 10 beads. And then that's it.
So it's like almost like looped.
Yeah. But you're not going all the way through the leather. You're just kind of snagging it and then moving over.
You're not going all the way through and back up?
Nope.
Oh.
No, you just snag it.
I'm learning.
But that one's a little tricky when there's curves, right? Because you got to get the spacing right. Otherwise, you get gaps, or it's too squished together and it just doesn't sit right. So,
and then the aunties will come after you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are kind of the main techniques for beading.
Okay. And this is I can't do 2-needle. I think I fake it. I know.
There's people out there who are doing 1 needle. That blows my mind because it's so much harder with 1 needle. And when people come in, because of all of our supplies, they ask advice. And as soon as I mention the 2nd needle, it clicks for them so fast. And then they get their projects done. They come back and show it off and brag about it. So it kind of has to be 2 needle.
Okay. We'll chat later. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Is there some significance to the patterns, the colors?
Yes and no. So traditionally we bead what we see. So Cree from Northern Alberta, we got the prairies, we got the flowers, lots of our stuff is floral. But here in Blackfoot territory, they get the mountains, so lots of their stuff is geometric. But nowadays with social media and everything, people bead whatever they like. Yeah. The only things that kind of stick to that is the actual style of the moccasins themselves and the drums. How we kind of put those together. But those are the only 2 things that I find that stick to that tradition where you know where they're from based off of their style.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you do spirit beads?
Sometimes they're not planned. They just happen.
It's like blood offerings also.
Yeah. No, there's blood, sweat, and tears in all of our work. Yeah.
Do you want to explain a spirit bead in case people don't know?
So the spirit bead, so nobody is perfect. So whether it happens on its own or you've put one in on purpose, it's just the one random bead that's off from any other color that you have in your work. Because, yeah, like I said, nobody's perfect. So that's why we have the spirit bead.
Humility bead.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
anything specific about the style of moccasin? So I know, like, it's very different, like the stony moccasins, or like the higher ones, or the like this type. Like this is very Cree, right?
This is very Cree. Yeah. And then I have some local ladies who do Blackfoot, and then there's stony, and then we have also mukluk, so the ones that go up higher.
Yeah. What style is this?
That one's stony. And then the mukluks, for the most part, it's done like the foot of it is done the same. It's just a little bit higher up instead of just a flap for the ankle.
Yeah.
But depending how fancy you get, they could be fully beaded, or just another flower or something beaded on top. Depends how creative you want to be with them.
Cool.
But I always encourage people to come in and make their own, whether it's moccasins or drums or learning how to bead instead of like doing it online or YouTube or anything like that.
And it's more fun. You get to chat.
It's so much fun sitting here and just talking with people, drinking tea throughout the day and just hanging out. Doesn't even feel like work.
Right?
Yeah.
The best kind of work. Okay, what else do you have here?
So next is a few of the dyeing arts. So there is tufting and fish scales. So tufting, fish scales, and porcupine quill work is how we decorated clothing before beads came over. You don't see too many of the fish scale because they are biodegradable, so they will disappear eventually. I don't have a number or a timeline as to when. My aunt has a piece, I think it's like coming up to 50 years. But it's a little dusty, but still looks good. You can still tell it's fish scale. So I'm not too sure when they start to disappear. But we've also started putting like a acrylic coat over top. 1, to strengthen the scales, and 2, to preserve them a little bit longer too.
Yeah, because they're white. They're quite brittle, right?
Sort of. They're not as fragile as you think.
Yeah.
Every time I have a class, I get them to try and break it, and they're always surprised that they can't do it like right away. So, yeah. Okay. And then we use every part of the fish. So there's the bones, the vertebrae, the fins. It's not just the scales. And we also use white fish. It's just their scales are nice and white, so it's great for dyeing all the different colors. And the scales are just the right size for the pictures. They're not too big. They're not too small. So yeah, whitefish is the best one so far.
Okay. And how do you dye it?
We used to use a clothing dye. You have to be very careful though, because the heat will make the scales shrivel up, and then it makes it a little harder for them to work with. But recently we've been experimenting and playing, and food coloring works.
They were going to say Kool-Aid. Wasn't Kool-Aid? No, isn't that?
Well, I haven't tried Kool-Aid, but I might. If it's because we just tried the food coloring for the first time not that long ago, and it actually is. It's faster. It's not shriveling up the scales. It's taken the colors nice. So that's what we're using from now on is food coloring.
So it's, I mean, like you were saying, it's like it's using all parts of the animal.
Yeah.
And like brain, I mean, that's chemistry. You need that to
Well,
make it.
I guess the other thing too with the hide, so like even your tools are within that animal, right? All the scraping and tools, stuff like that, that's all like shin bones.
Yeah.
It's all bones from the animal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then using all the animal here.
yep. Yeah, my aunt always says that Aboriginal people were the original recyclers, right? We use every little bit every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fish scale. The other one I have here is tufting. So it's done with moose hair and caribou hair. Caribou hair is the easiest one to get because you could kind of just go to any leather store and they would have it. The moose hair is a little harder to get. That one comes from the neck of the moose. It's nice and long, so we could kind of use it more than just like a little small piece.
Yeah.
And we dye them. We dye these ones with clothing dye as well, but you have to be a little picky because of the oils and stuff on it. So we can't just use any clothing dye. It just doesn't stick. So we actually use RIT clothing dye.
Cool.
Same thing with the scales. You have to be careful about the heat because the skin of it will shrivel up, and that just makes it harder to work with. So you kind of get your dye going, let it cool down, and then throw in the hair. Let it dry overnight, and then it's good to go the next day.
I remember how much like the tufting is so fun to do, and so
it's one of those that you do need to practice, and you will get frustrated. I got frustrated.
Yeah.
I almost gave up, but my aunt was like, no, just do it. Do it like this, try that. So you kind of, the way you hold it makes a big difference too. So you just kind of tinker and try it your own way, and then it works out. But too much of anything's not a good thing. She actually became allergic to the fur, my aunt. So it motivated her to come and teach me sooner than later. So when we have the moccasin, sometimes we put beaver fur around. She can't do that. So she gives it to me and I do it.
Then you get to do it.
Yeah.
It's very satisfying with the tufting when you get to cut it after.
Sometimes I'm stuck cutting a little too much, right? Because you want to be picky, you want it to get nice and even or a perfect shape. So I'm sitting there trimming.
Just know when to stop trimming.
Yeah. But it shows. You see a difference in the work and stuff. The first piece I ever did with tufting, we took it to our framer and it came back to the store. It sold the same day. I didn't even get to see it.
Oh no.
Yeah. I get photos of it. But it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best problem to have.
Yeah.
You talked about quill work also.
Yes.
You don't have any right now.
No, because it's hard to keep that one in stock too. Plus, it's very time consuming to get to make it, and like I think that one is not as well known as these ones even. Well, some people might know it, but they definitely don't know how to use it or do it or anything because there's different ways to use the quills. They are hollow, so sometimes you see them in the long dangly earrings.
Yeah.
They treat it like a big bugle bead, so they just string it through. Yeah. Sometimes with the baskets too, they pre-punch the holes and then they weave it through that way, so it still looks open. It's not squished or flat. When we put it onto the hide, that's when we kind of squish it and flatten it, and then you fold it and then we stitch it down as you go.
I can't comprehend that.
I'm very I'm simplifying it. Well, we keep it wet.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to keep it a little damp so it doesn't crack and break like that. And so we have like a wet paper towel. The quills are in there. Yeah. They're not barbed or anything. We kind of stick them into the hide and snip off the barb that way. Yeah. And then they're ready to go.
And then when they dry, they don't crack.
No. Nope.
Smart animals, the porcupines.
And then, so because people know what we do as well, we get donated a lot of things. So we get donated porcupine roadkill. I get feathers. I get the hides. I get beads.
Just a bag of dead animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not.
And then you get to deal with all the fun stuff.
Not me. The aunt does.
Good job, Yvonne.
Yeah. I take it to her and she does her thing with it, and then she'll be like, "Hey, make this and this." I'm like, "Okay." So.
How often do you get stuff just dropped off?
It's very random. But like I have bags and bags of feathers from people dropping stuff off. I've gotten a couple pelts of roadkill. I've gotten full owls, but Cree people don't really work with owls, so we kind of give it to other people that we know who would use it, right? So we still pass it on even if we can't.
Yeah.
If it's too icky, we'll deal with it. You know, we won't make anybody else kind of deal with that. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you teach a lot of classes here.
A lot of classes.
What's your favorite
Yes.
class to teach?
I get asked that a lot, and I don't know if I have a favorite. The beading one happens more often than the rest of them,
Mhm.
and that one is a little bit more chill, right? So I think that one might be the best one.
Yeah.
Because everything else is kind of a little more advanced as well. So then they get frustrated a little bit, and I got to work with them one on one. But we always finish by the end of the day, whatever we're trying to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What would you like to learn?
What would I like to learn?
Yeah, what's something that you'd like to learn?
Birch bark biting.
Right.
Yeah, I was this close to learning from one of our artists, and then COVID hit. So couldn't, because we were going to trade, right? She was going to teach me biting. I was going to teach her some sort of beading, but it didn't work out. So, but that's the one I would like to learn.
Fascinating. I'm so happy you brought that up. It's fascinating. To think about, first of all, I heard it's really bad for your teeth.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. But, you know,
Yeah.
that's fine. It's worth it.
Yeah.
But to take a piece of birch bark and to fold it in certain ways and then just think about that, what you're going to bite into it. But and some of them are so intricate and stunning, and not just like, for those that don't know, think about like cutting a snowflake, but you're folding a piece of birch bark and biting the designs. But also a lot of them there's animals, there's like plants, and
the artist that we have that's doing that, when she first started, was kind of more like flowers and stars, but now she's got like people, which is always hard regardless of what you're doing, whether it's beading, painting, or biting. So yeah, and like just to see how they come up with their designs, that blows my mind, because they're not pre-drawing anything like we do with beading. We could trace stuff out, but they don't do that with the biting. So
it's just in your head. And I don't.
Yeah, apparently it's all by feel, but I don't know.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Fascinating. Okay, birch bark biting. Let me know. I'd like to learn too.
Yeah.
So you teach a lot of classes.
Yes.
And a question that, a conversation that I've had a lot, actually more recently than ever, has been about appropriation and how do we, of course, how do we share this knowledge? As you said, this is a dying art that has been revitalized by yourself and your family. How do we share this knowledge? Because it's important for people to understand this.
Yeah.
But how do you do that in a good way?
So we always tell people that there's a difference between appreciation and appropriation, right? So if you're buying something and claiming that it's your own, or trying to make money off of it or anything like that, then that's a problem. But if you buy something and somebody asks, hey, where did you get that? I'd be like, oh, Moonstone creation from this artist and that artist, given credit where credit's due.
Yep.
That's a big difference. And then when we're teaching it, they know how important it is. At the end of every class, I always get the comment, oh, I have such more appreciation for this work. I know why it's priced the way it is. I know why, just everything. It clicks for them.
Yeah.
So that helps.
Yeah.
And then they become like another ally to get people to stop appropriating, because they've been through this. They know how much work is involved. So that helps a lot too. But like everything in Moonstone is safe for everyone to wear and buy and gift and everything like that. Just as long as you're not claiming it as your own.
Yeah. And again, like knowing where it's from, who the artist is, where that artist is from.
Yeah.
It's like, as we say here, that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And like any art gallery, if you ask that question, they should be able to answer it. If they can't answer it, I'd be a little iffy about it.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the price point, I think that's
we still don't get paid what we should. It's a labor of love, beading, and everything that we do here on this table is just all a labor of love.
It's also, I think people are like, but that's really expensive for this shoe. Like, okay, first of all, do you know how long that took?
Yeah.
And how long it takes to, learn that.
Yeah.
And, that's ancestral knowledge that's passed down. And just even like the materials, thinking about like as you said, making the leather, making like everything.
Yeah. Like the leather alone is like a couple weeks. Just the leather, not even getting the beads, coming up with the pattern, making the moccasin, like it all adds up.
Yeah. So you don't get the cheap ones online, right?
Yeah. Be very picky.
So last question, what is your hope for the future? The future of Indigenous arts, the future of Indigenous science? What do you hope?
Just more awareness, more artists. You know, there is kind of the younger group is kind of getting more into the beading and everything too, which is great. 15 years ago when I first started, there was like no interest for anybody that was younger than me, didn't really know or care about it. But I see that changing now. So that's good. And then just, yeah, more awareness, the whole appreciation, appropriation. Um, and then just keeping the ones that are dying alive and keeping them going.
Yeah. I think also it's something I'm keeping it going, and I think having more people do this is super important, and more knowledge about this. And do you have a concern about materials and sustainability of any of the materials?
Sometimes. So like, you know, with the fires that happened this year, took away a lot of the birch bark from up north.
Yeah.
So we had to wait months for that artist to send us more. Right? So it's things like that.
Yeah.
The hides, my aunt's very picky about because she does clothing and stuff like that. You can hold up a hide and she'll be like, moccasins here, a purse there, a vest there. I should get this much money out of it. So
I love that.
yeah, she's
I can
very
envision it right now.
yeah. Yeah.
But they're getting less, so the amount of hides that you're getting, or the
Well,
quality?
because my aunt's very picky about it,
Yeah.
right? She doesn't just take any old hide.
Yeah.
A lot of the beaters, they're not picky about it. So they would take whatever is out there.
Yeah.
But there is a couple shops here in Calgary, here in Edmonton that are there in Edmonton that we go to for the commercial stuff. The raw hides, the beads are all a Canadian company. The fish scales come from family up north. And then just with all the other people out there who know what we do and bring us all these bits and pieces, I don't think we're ever going to run out of stuff to do.
Perfect. And original beads.
Sorry?
And like the original beads.
So,
do you have any of those around here? Any seeds?
Yes.
Yeah,
but they're not technically ready to be used as beads. It's like a before thing. These are
before is good.
These are wolf willows.
Is that what they look like? No,
and then
because it's inside.
is yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what it is before, and then you crack it open, there's a seed in there, and then we use that as a bead.
Is that weird that I didn't know this?
I didn't know that it was like this either.
Yeah.
And then when you squish it, it's like a mushed pea, but there's the seed there.
The OG seeds. So those were before contact.
Yeah.
You know?
So
it's like obviously this new.
Yeah. So it was seeds, shells, stones, and bone. That's kind of what we used. And then now it's glass. There is plastic out there, but we like to use glass. Yeah. The most common size is size 11, which is what we have here. Maybe like 20, 30 years ago, it was size 10s, which we still carry as well. So my older beaters are using size 10s. The younger ones are using size 11s, but they get as small as size 15s. So the higher the number, the smaller the bead. Yeah, so that's that wall there. That's all the tiny ones over there. So there's different cuts as well. So there's one cuts. These kind of irk me because there's 3 names to it. It's either one cut, true cut, or Charlotte beads.
Yeah,
they don't need that many names. And then depending on the project, you might switch to like these smaller guys. These are delicas. They're great for earrings. So the hole size is still the same as all the ones here, but they're cut a little bit thinner so they look smaller. So you get those nice detail in your designs.
I'm learning stuff. I have no idea.
And then at the same time, so like this peyote beading one, even the looming and the brick stitch, I had an artist who came in and exchanged all of her hank beads. That's what the ones on the strings are called, as hanks, for the ones in the vials, the mayukis, because they're very uniform and nice and even. So when you're doing stuff like this where it needs to sit nice, she was very, very picky about it. And it shows in her work.
Interesting. See, I like the different sizes because sometimes you need like the smaller ones to get in the.
Yeah.
I get that. but I don't do those ones.
I taught my mom and sister how to bead, and my sister was doing these big medallions for a couple, and like one was a woodpecker, the other one was a fox. So get the like the textures of the fur and the feathers, she would switch from 11s, 10s, 15s, 13s just to give it that different look. Yeah.
Yeah. That's above my level.
Yeah. Yeah. Even I don't have patience for that one. I would have just made it all the same size.
So going back to the OG beads,
Mhm.
so would that be like fish bones?
Bones, or even just like regular like antlers, leg bones, anything.
Yeah. And like all of the like the tufting, this like all of this, that was also like a decorating. I don't like that word.
And then my aunt actually had a pair of moccasins with the tufting on it, and they got dirty, so she was brave enough and threw them in the wash because they were smoke tied as well. This stuff you could get wet, the commercial stuff you can't.
Yep.
So she threw it in the wash and it came out fine. The hair stayed intact and everything. So if you do it right, not even a machine can tear it apart. So
Oh, that was brave.
I know.
Give me a small heart attack for saying that.
I know.
I'm just gonna throw my old tufted moccasins.
I wouldn't. It took me 2 years to make my own personal pair of moccasins because I went a little bit overboard with the beading. Took a break, made the moccasins. They were off, so I had to take them apart, redo it. So I was taking breaks in between, and now I don't wear them. They're too precious.
Just like put them in like a case on the wall.
Yeah,
like,
they're just for show for the most part. Yeah.
Amazing. This has been fantastic. I learned so much.
Thank
Thank you so much for having us here today.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Come check out Moonstone when you're in Calgary.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.